James at 16 will not be presented this evening, but will return next week at its regular time. Stay tuned now for a special 2-hour What Really Happened to the Class of 65.
Doctor Strange, I could really just embrace the earliest version of that character, which frankly looked like he was half English, half Asian in the way he was drawn in his first appearance. His eyes had a different kind of shape, and his whole aesthetic was really beaming the sense of Asian culture coming forward. But he also looked like a definitely much older guy, so I didn't hold back with that in the illustration. I'm somebody who likes to embrace age as a definitive characteristic that you can really get into much deeper character with somebody when you show more form and grit in the face. It's more shadow. It's more lines for the artist to hook into.
How we doing, everybody? I'm so sorry. I'm having my usual technical difficulties, and so it might be harder to put comments on the screen. So I'm warning everybody now. But welcome to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Very excited to talk today about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a wonderful book that our buddy Larry Young has put together. But we also are very lucky because we have, and I'm going to try and do this right, national security attorney and expert Bradley Moss.
Hey, guys, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, good deal.
This is a dream come true for me, having you two guys meet each other and we get to talk about cool stuff. This is
I know I'm a massive S.H.I.E.L.D. comics fan, and Larry, you were doing these essays, basically kind of a running commentary every week, all 7 seasons of S.H.I.E.L.D. Hold up the book and show everybody.
Yeah. So my friend EJ.
Oop, hold on. Damn it.
We lost one.
Wrong one.
There we go. My friend EJ Fettis had a cool website called Spunky Bean, and he had been writing about Lost. And I was a giant fan of Lost, and but I didn't really think about really getting into the mythology until like around season 5 or so. And the first thing I did was, Google something. I see EJ's got this vast stuff. So I sent him some comments, and we got to be buddies over it. So he loved that Joe Casey made me, Larry Young, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. First appearance cable number 60. I think that's up to around $350 now. Not $350, but $3.50. But still, first appearance of Larry Young.
It takes time. It takes time.
So EJ said, hey, it'd be really cool when the Whedon S.H.I.E.L.D. Show came out, if a real S.H.I.E.L.D. agent talked to us about what was going on. Because they had showed the pilot episode at San Diego. And so I got a chance to see it ahead of time, and I told him it was great. And he's like, just do a column for me. And I was like, absolutely. But I didn't realize it was going to be 7 years. And EJ says funny stuff like, I didn't realize I was asking you to write a book, like, 400 words for 7 years. But so yeah, little observations. It starts off about what I think of the episode, but like, it's no fun for me because at first I I just assume you've seen the episode. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. So I'll say some funny thing, but then it turns into ruminations, stuff that's happening to me, recipes. I couldn't do one week, because my cat likes to eat Nerf bullets, and so we had to get all the Nerf bullets out of her. And I sent a picture of the X-ray to him just to prove I wasn't just blowing it off, and he couldn't get over that. It's like, and that's the one thing I wish was in the book.
The cat ate my homework.
Yeah, the Xerox of the
cat Nerf bullet X-ray. That's fantastic. Jesus, the poor cat. What's the cat's name?
That cat was Rao. We have a black cat. And,
Rao.
Rao. Yeah. When
Kryptonian god. Absolutely.
There was but
and the spaghetti sauce.
It was Rao before the spaghetti and the Kryptonian god. But when Walker was 2 or 3, our cat had a throaty meow, and it sounded like Rao, Rao.
So
he's learning to talk, and he just started calling the cat, and his cat was grumpy as shit, but started answering to it. And so we're like, okay, I guess your name is Rao now.
That's great.
And when that cat died, we got another black cat. That's the short Rao. And now Rao is just an office you hold in our house. We always have a cat, but we always have a Rao as well.
You got to be careful bringing black cats around. These North Side Chicago people. We have a bad history with black cats.
Yeah,
crossing.
Yes, the Cubs, absolutely, man. Stano, 69.
Oh yeah, freaking Mets.
I was going to go on a pet tangent. I was 7, my sister was 12, and we got a dog. And technically, it was her dog. And I was like, Crypto. We got to name the dog Crypto. Superboy's pup. And of course, my sister's like Whiskers, and I'm like, all right. But he was
okay. I guess that works.
But he was really fast, so we ended up calling him Whisk, which was cool. So yeah, at least I managed to get it off the Hallmark greeting card and made it more a little cooler for a guy to go, oh no, that's my dog Whisk. Look how fast he is.
That is a good name. I like that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So that's awesome. Mike Jones says Hydra trying to hack this pod. Absolutely, man. And Chris Sagasak is watching as well. Yeah, guys, I don't want to take any chances, so I'm not going to show comments or visuals, unfortunately. So I'm not like during.
We can only give people shout outs though. We kind of do that.
100%. Oh no, and I'm watching the comments, so it's cool. No, we got a nice little group assembling and stuff. So I have to admit, especially in the first season, they announced this show to be obviously adjacent and borrowing from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I had this kind of waiting for Godot vibe of, okay, gee, it'd be nice if an Avenger were to show up. And I realized that Downey and Evans and the other A-listers were going to be too busy to even Samuel L. Jackson rather, not to be confused with Flash Gordon, of course. But
Sam Jones, yeah,
exactly. But I mean, it was nice when he would pop up for the brief minute or so. But it was always so obvious that all right, we got 3 hours to shoot Sam Jackson and all of his scenes or whatever. Let's make sure he's standing in place in one pose for every time we cut to him. But we got Sif rather. We eventually got Ghost Rider and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was. I have to admit, it kept my enjoyment from really fulfilling. And also, again, I mean, I'm a big S.H.I.E.L.D. fan going back to when Steranko was writing and drawing it and everything. So, God, even Son of Origins of Marvel Comics had that Kirby origin before Steranko got his hands on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I know Larry, and Larry's been on the show, and Larry's a big '60s spy guy and stuff.
Yeah.
Brad, were you part of that? Loving those reruns when we were kids?
I didn't get as many of those. I won't lie, but I mean, I'm a kid of the '80s, so I was sitting there with Transformers, He-Man, all that stuff. But going back to S.H.I.E.L.D. and how they kind of brought it in, what you were saying, the one thing I remember always liking about it, especially in the early seasons, as they got on in the later ones, they got in these larger, more universal kind of end of the world stuff. But in the early ones, it was kind of like here's all the stuff that you would have seen if you saw the behind the scenes, bureaucratic day-to-day stuff of running this organization. You would see a little bit of it, when they would pop up in one of the movies. Or you would see it when Hydra came out and they had to take it down. but you didn't see the day-to-day stuff. And the way I kind of, analogize it is, it's sort of what, for those who watch Star Wars, because I wasn't a Star Trek guy, I was a Star Wars guy. Think of if you watch Andor. Andor was this perfect sort of the thing you never would have seen watching a Star Wars movie. It's not about a bunch of Jedi. It's not this big picture space battles. It's, hey, here's the, people sneaking their way into the bureaucracy to really bring back the Empire, something like that. That's what, especially in the early seasons, I felt like S.H.I.E.L.D. was. It was the, okay, we tied it in with the second Thor movie. He's just trashed this whole, university. Now let's show what we do afterwards that you would never see in the movie, because it would ruin the transition. It would ruin the flow. That's what I loved about S.H.I.E.L.D. in that part, and, building out that team. We got later on and they were doing these, end of, aliens coming, or different aliens coming in and taking over the planet. I'm like, okay, you lost me now.
So you didn't stay with it either for the full 7.
No, I think whichever season it was, Larry will know, when they had to do that whole separate season of basically they're all enslaved now. Humanity, is trying to find a way to get back. You have to go back in time. I lost interest around that point. I was like, yeah, I'm done. This has gone too far. Now it's a job. It's a chore to watch it. That's where I fell off.
That was season 5.
That was
and
5.
like every S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, it starts crazy good, and there'll be some neat thing that you're like, wow, I can't wait for them to explore that. For Brad, your example was Enoch. At the beginning of that, they explored that there's this alien there. He's in L.A. He's swimming in a pool. He's got kids' pictures on the fridge, but also a human skin suit, and he's an alien. I was like, wow, I can't wait for this entire season to be about that. And they never mentioned that again.
Yeah.
They had Enoch there. He was doing stuff. And I was like, oh my God, give me that season where S.H.I.E.L.D. has to figure out that there's some crazy thing going on that they don't know about. But I don't know. I don't want to damn them with faint praise, but I also don't want to crack on them for it wasn't exactly what I wanted, because I don't think what I wanted would be very commercial.
I absolutely hear you, Larry. Yeah.
There's a bit where one of the characters in season 3 reveals that he's the grandson of a Howling Commando, and it's clearly Dum Dum Dugan, but the actor's African American. It's Trip, right? So there's too much to say there. So I get they don't say it out loud, but he pulls out a valise from 1940, and it's full of talcum powder that explodes and mucilage that's it's full of crazy shit. And I'm like, man, why aren't we having that show? Right? They're super spies. Give me some spycraft doing some crazy crap. And we see the flying car twice in 7 years. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They were tested well with markets, or God only knows what with certain graphics. But they took what was originally a simple concept with that show, and they just went way out. Which, I mean, for a while it worked. You could, you were on, and oh man, I'm blanking now on the character's name. The female scientist, they got stranded on the one planet.
Yeah. Oh man, that was great.
Yeah, that whole storyline was cool. I could get along with that. But as they kept going further, I'm like, guys, you're gonna start losing people. I don't even know what this is about anymore. It's certainly not what it was about originally. I mean, maybe you need to tie it back into the movie series somehow.
The tone changed every season. Yeah. And it was almost like, are they searching it out? I think they were likely searching for the right format that would click with the audience, because it was kind of diminishing results each season as it went on. It had a core audience, obviously. Mike asked a good question. Is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the last major sci-fi series that had 22 episodes on the network before the streaming model was adopted? I kind of think so.
Probably.
Yeah, but it's not. That's not streaming models adopted. That's because of the coronavirus and they couldn't produce things.
Well, that
right.
That too. Trying to think. I mean, what was when Supergirl was on?
Right.
What was it? Was it ABC? I forget which network had.
It was CBS and then CW.
Yeah. I mean, when they had that originally, I mean, that was the closest. But you can't, to do the old 22 episode model for something like that. It's too much money. You can't keep the base, there for every week. It's much easier as an 8 to 10 episode streaming thing. Like you do Secret Invasion, or you do Falcon and Winter Soldier, stuff like that. I think that, it's probably more expensive, but I think it's easier for them to pull together.
Well, and the business model, because always for network shows, they would create them and run them at a loss, and where they'd recoup their money was in not only North American syndication but international syndication. Yeah. And I was just at a convention just at the beginning of August, and I won't name the star, but he was there, and we were talking about his show, and he's like, it was the third season. When I went to the network to renegotiate my deal, I was in a position of power because beyond North America, it was produced in Canada. Internationally, big hit. So he got what he wanted, and he's like, yeah, that business model is now gone.
Yeah,
because I don't even know what countries still run things. I mean, my God, I know Brad here in Chicago, when we have an hour-long old rerun show, they bury it like in the overnight hours.
Yeah.
You
get the old the in the heat of the night, old reruns from the 80s and stuff like that. You'll see those, but those are like buried on the old WGN, whatever it is now.
Yeah, or Antenna TV or MeTV, and the iterations of MeTV.
It's cheap. It's easy for them to just fill space on that. But you can't make money off that anymore. Everything with the streaming wars, it's a different ball game, and everybody's going to have to adapt to it. And I don't see the need to drag out a show across 22 episodes for an entire season.
Oh, I agree.
With what they've been able to produce content-wise.
That's the interesting thing, that it's an old model anyway, because comic books are the size they are because paper came and that's folded 8 times, and that's why they're that size. It's the weirdest ass size ever. It's like 10 1/4 by 6 5/8. And so that's the same thing with the 22 episode network show, because of the networks, it was originally 26, and it was literally
39 if you go back to
but just in general, it was 26 because of the calendar. You had a year of fresh stuff. 6 months of fresh stuff and 6 months of reruns.
Absolutely.
And that was a season.
Yep.
And so there's just literally no reason to do that anymore, because that's not how it is.
Well,
and yet,
but again, how do you pay for it? I mean, and that's the quandary that the networks and the studios now have, and that's what's obviously being kind of figured out, and also the WGA and SAG strikes and everything. I mean, it's I certainly, as a SAG member myself, my sympathy is with my fellow SAG union people and the Writers Guild. But that said, it's not that easy. Good Lord, Bob Iger, while he's trying to deal with the strikes, has already floated the idea of, hey, maybe Disney's going to get rid of ABC. And that's insane. I mean, it really, when you think, man, Brad, I hear you, man. I mean, it's like, wow. I remember 30 years ago when they acquired ABC. And it's like, I don't think network television is the successful business model that it was prior to streaming.
Yeah, I can't think of the last time I really sat down and watched anything on network television, on the night when at the time it comes on.
Oh, yeah.
We had DVRs, that was a thing for a while, that everybody you DVR'd everything, you watch it in one bulk. Now with the streaming, even if there was something on network television, my wife likes the Will Trent show, which I think is on ABC. We just get it off Hulu or something at this point.
Sure.
It gets redone on one of the streaming networks. So it's like, why would I even bother? Everything that we care at this point to watch, it's sitting on Netflix, Hulu, or Disney Plus.
I think the Good Place. That
that was a rare one. Yeah,
and in fact, those producers went to NBC and said, we can't make 20 of these a year. You're going to have to deal with the fact that you're only going to get 11 a year from us. And the audience didn't care as long as it was good. And for years, if Larry, I want to hear what you were going to say. I didn't mean to jump on you, but for years, I would. I'm sorry. For years, I would Brad Meltzer. Why are you guys not? Because he had Jack and Bobby on the WB.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, you're in this, so like, explain to me why it's necessary to make 20 plus episodes a season. And he said it's syndication. We want to get to 100 episodes. We turn to syndication, and then the studio makes its money back. Yeah. But that business model is gone.
Bringing it back to S.H.I.E.L.D. though, that's kind of, you guys were talking about the changing format every season, and that's a successful thing if you can do it. Like, I think Fringe was amazing. That show was different every year, and
the way they changed that show, absolutely.
But you still cared about the characters, so it's possible, right? And I was really with S.H.I.E.L.D. The whole first season. Everybody's like, nothing's going on. I'm like, no, they're building something. You can tell. there's an eye and leg and arm. That's going to be a guy. And I should, because I'm Deathlock, I should have put that together. That's where the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent thing comes from. I'm actually, my human body is drunk in a robot body now. It's crazy.
One day we'll have to get the full background on that
I'll
one.
do the
Some of the details on it.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, so S.H.I.E.L.D. was kind of successful changing that when they tied into the Captain America movie. That was, and
Yes.
that was fantastic. You could go on Friday and see, watch S.H.I.E.L.D. on Tuesday night, go on Friday to see a continuation of that scene with all the same actors, which was crazy. That's the one time they took S.H.I.E.L.D. actors and just moved them over into, the show moved them over into the movies. But then the next Tuesday, you'd be like, what's that?
Same studio parking lot, probably.
I don't understand why they didn't do that every episode, though. That's what I mean. It was great. I don't know. But I started off that with a 22 episode thing. That's how season 6 and season 7 were 22 episodes. It was just 11 for each one. They called it 2 seasons. I thought that was brilliant because of what was going on with the quarantine and the lockdown. But plus, you also get to say there's 7 years of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, absolutely. And
I ended up being bitter up and down like a roller coaster, and I loved it in the beginning, and I loved it in the middle, and I loved it at the end. So I'm going to call it. That was great.
That's why I like your book as opposed to a lot of other fan appreciation books. You it really is like, we're watching the show with you and just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I didn't like that one, or I don't like the vibe we're getting right now. What did you guys think of the cast? How good were the characters portrayed?
I thought they were. I mean, I thought they were great. I thought they were all very well cast. I thought some of them very well grew in those characters. Chloe Bennett growing into becoming Quake. I thought that was great how she grew into that.
Sure.
I don't remember all the actors' names. Larry probably knows them far better.
About the characters.
The two British scientists. I thought they were awesome. I thought they stole scenes basically on their own. They were fantastic. It was nice. Coulson didn't have to lead the whole thing after a few episodes. He could kind of let the rest of the ensemble take the role. I thought that was
May was great. Yeah, Ming-Ya Wei. I mean, I've loved her pretty much in everything she's ever made. Even
ever.
The Single Guy, wasn't that her sitcom and on NBC before?
Oh my God, that's reaching back.
Yeah, and no, I'm friendly with Jeff Loeb, and I would always say, I'm like, oh, that was brilliant casting, man, getting her on S.H.I.E.L.D.
I think the cast is pretty unassailable. I think that any success that show had was the charm and warmth of the cast, being asked to do ridiculous stuff, but you still bought into it because, cool super spy dad Clark Gregg is telling you, everything's going to be okay. So you put some, young, hungry actors around a guy like that. It's hard to go wrong if you cast good actors, and they did. They have great actors.
Not so much in live action, but it's funny. In the comics for Ultimate Spider-Man, Brian Bendis cast me as Peter Parker's principal. So when and it was just as a joke, Principal Suntress or whatever, but it was in several issues. And at first it didn't look like me, but then other artists would actually draw him to look like me and everything. And then when the cartoon came out and they made Coulson undercover as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Peter's principal, all these word balloon watchers and listeners are like, hey man, they screwed you over. And I'm like, that's adorable, but so not true. And I'm really bummed that I've yet to meet Clark Gregg and go, hey, you stole my job, man.
That's awesome.
We should we should find a way to file a lawsuit. I'm sure there's got to be some kind of legal.
Well, Brad, you got to get me the right lawyer. Absolutely.
I'll talk to Mark, my boss. We'll figure something out. No problem.
That was great. You told a story in the green room there about Mark saying, this is a funny story because the visual effects guy is also named Mark, so I forget his last name. So let me just move over to that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, at San Diego, a guy that worked for that Mark came and said, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm glad that I get to have this experience in real life." And I explained it to him, and he reminded me that the guy's name was Mark. But that was great. We got a lot of press out of that. So thank you very much, Brad.
I thought it was hysterical. I was like, yes, keep selling.
As Deathlock.
By the way, we're still good. 20%, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great,
huge
man.
numbers, I'm sure.
I was happy when they would pop in a second or third tier Marvel character, like when Glenn Talbot showed up in
Oh,
S.H.I.E.L.D.
yeah,
That really made me happy, man. That was a good reach. And also Adrian Pastor is such one of my favorite character actors anyway.
Well, really, yeah.
It gave the ability. You would never see those people in the big movie. They'd get crowded out or they'd be thrown in the background as a cameo. That's what those shows gave that option. And that's what was, and I don't know why Disney's killing off these various TV show side projects, but that's what they allow you to do. They let you explore that and to continue to build an audience to keep bringing in subscribers to stay on your platform. So, I mean, yeah, that's what S.H.I.E.L.D. did when it was on network. That's what all these shows on the streaming platforms do. It allows you to bring in these other characters so you don't otherwise ever see, especially not in the movies, because it's Iron Man and Captain America doing everything, and Fat Thor. It's not going to be that character. Fat Thor is all of us, by the
way. Maybe they are, and especially given the attempts to show various streaming shows and the ones that aren't successful or aren't received as well, maybe their feeling is, it's got to have the big banger. No, I mean, and to be honest, God, even Secret Invasion, I thought was a little disappointing. I mean, I was on the ride, and then it ended just kind of with a whimper, and I'm like, all right, I guess.
I mean, you got to wonder how expensive was that, because those weren't some small names. I mean, you got Khaleesi there playing the daughter. You bring the guy back to play the father. That character who gets killed off. Halfway through the season.
Yeah.
You bring back
Olivia Colman, Oscar winner, and her stock just keeps rising.
Yeah, Martin Freeman was in it. Yeah,
that's not cheap.
Don Cheadle.
Got to get good metrics
on
that.
Absolutely.
I don't have any inside information, but here's my belief on that, because I loved every second of Secret Invasion because it wasn't giant, world stakes. But the thing is, we just don't know it yet, because I really think that this is just setting up.
I agree.
Secret Wars or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Because why do you cast all those heavy hitters if they're not going to show up later? So I have a feeling there's going to be a point where people reassess it and go, oh my God, that was amazing. Because.
And while we're on that, I'm out in defense of She-Hulk. She's an awesome lawyer.
Oh, cool. Yeah. You didn't have any professional problem with that? That's great.
I mean, and I'll defer to, so my boss Mark did a bunch of those legal analyses after each of those episodes came out. I can't remember who ran the piece
I'm
on
going to Google after this.
But yeah, I mean, every show you have ever about lawyers, it's dramatized, it's exaggerated. A lot of it has nothing to do with real life of what being a lawyer is, because if you watched what we really did in real life, you'd be bored out of your skull.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but there were parts of it where I was like, okay, that would never actually work that way. But it was just awesome to watch it and to see how it was.
I love that show.
That'd be too fun.
I thought it was quite successsul. Absolutely. And plus, I mean, I was an Orphan Black fan, so Tatiana Maslany already had my full attention. And so well cast. My legal expert that I go to that has his television background as well is Mark Guggenheim. And Eli Stone, his ABC show that got canceled early because of that writer's strike 9 years ago.
I liked that show. I was mad. That was one of those where I was ticked about all the stuff that got killed off with the writers. That writer's strike a few years back.
Yeah, man.
Guggenheim is a really good resource for what's going on with the strike right now. I don't subscribe to a lot of stuff because I read a lot of crap, but I love Guggenheim's Substack.
Okay, my Twitter feed does not qualify, Larry.
Not Twitter anymore, of course.
I'm sorry. X is what people did back in college when we were going to raves. It's Twitter, and be Twitter to the end.
That's so funny. Talk about people killing the golden goose.
Well, and it's Elon. How can I fuck this up today? What else can I do to this? Oh, people can't block anymore. It's like, Jesus, man. Whatever.
He desperately wants to make Mark Zuckerberg cool again. Is the only thing it's got to be a secret. You're making Zuckerberg and Threads, the Facebook's, the Instagram offshoot. You're making that look cool. That's pretty impressive. Everybody hated Zuckerberg after 2016. You know,
And I
how did
haven't
he pull this off?
Yeah.
I'm sitting on like a couple Blue Sky invitations, and I haven't pulled the trigger on that because I did do Hive,
Yeah.
and then like Hive got buggy and stupid, and I'm like, all right, goodbye. You know, it's
And the
uh,
problem is no one's there.
right.
In the end, it's just there's not a critical mass of people and everything you still
Yeah.
need. You still got to go back to Twitter for. So that's what we'll see with Threads.
yeah.
And see if you can get that.
Well, and it still is my largest social media following
Right.
is Twitter. So that's why, yeah, I'm still there.
It's like an addiction. My wife goes, "You don't have a girlfriend or anything, do you?" I go, "No, I have Twitter. That's worse." She goes, "Okay, I can deal with that."
Oh man, you don't have time to have a
I was
girlfriend.
like, I don't have time. I don't have time for any of that. I got Twitter. That's bad enough.
There they brought the car to either New York or Chicago. I forget which.
Oh yeah.
One of the Comic Cons, and you're right. It's like, oh, and you know, at San Diego, hey, here's Odin's throne. Here's Tony Stark's original gray armor. I mean, we'd always get those kind of things. And then we saw the car, but then like you said in the show, we only saw it twice. And much like it was much worse with the Inhumans TV series. But that I have to say, and listen, you can't match a television budget to a movie budget. You just can't.
Agree.
But that said, and actually I'm due to talk to Loeb in the next couple of weeks, and I am going to ask him about S.H.I.E.L.D. because he had a very active role. I mean, Joss Whedon's brother, Jed, and the other two showrunners would confer with Jeff on a regular basis. And Jeff also had that wonderful experience of comics and television being with the Smallville show for as many years as he was too. So I think,
he was involved in Heroes too, wasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I think that was the one where regular people went, "Oh, who's this Jeff Loeb guy?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, again, I do. It's funny, Larry. Your book is making me want to revisit S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, hey, that's cool.
Well, we're not going to get anything new for 2 or 3 years anyway, so why not?
Seriously, like I'm getting through every single remaining documentary left on Netflix at this point. I'm venturing into the foreign language ones just to keep myself moving along. I'm like, all right, I never did catch season 6 and 7 of S.H.I.E.L.D. I guess I go back and watch and see how it turned out.
Season 7 is excellent. You'll like season 7. Yeah.
That's really good to know. It's funny, Brad. I on Amazon
1, 4, and 7. That's all you need.
Oh, that's good to know. All right,
yeah.
Season 1, Season 4, Season 7.
Yeah.
On a documentary tangent, I on Amazon they had a JFK biography series, and then I clicked on it, and it really is just a college course, and it's literally just a professor going through his lesson and stuff. But being the JFK history nut that I am, I'm like, oh no, I'm in. It's fine, and I can clean my house while I'm watching it and everything. I don't have to pay attention to the screen.
It kills time. It's background noise. It's something to go on, while you're doing 3 other things, or if you're me, while you're scrolling Twitter at the same time, yelling at random bots who leave you alone.
That's working, man. Yeah, you just described my podcast. It's meant to be listened to while you're working out or whatever. Yeah, doing something else, man.
I'm not a big podcast guy, but I love the fact that you can find something. It's like, oh, I have to put around the house or do weeding or laundry or something. And I found some U.S. manned space program thing that I'm a pretty well-informed enthusiast. Like, it's rare when I find something. And this podcast is from beginning to end stuff I had never heard of. So I was just like, wow, this is great. I feel like I should be weeding in a spacesuit.
Brett, are you a podcast consumer?
I catch everything that my wife hands to me. So my wife does every true crime podcast. She has probably listened to at this point, if not once, at least twice. So I just waiting for her to tell me what I need to listen to next. I'm like, okay, I'll put that one in the background while I'm working on this brief. I don't even pick them anymore. I go, okay, honey, what am I listening to? That one? Cool. Don't tell me what happens.
Mimi just told me Serial Killer or whatever that one everyone was into has got a new season now. So she started listening to that.
Wait, the one about the guy, Adnan Saeed?
Yeah, I guess. Serial, right? Yeah. There's a second season.
It was Serial. Well, yeah. Well, there's got to be more to that because, and Rabia, his cousin, talks a lot about it, obviously on Twitter and in media. but because of the ongoing appeals and because it looks like there's a possibility he actually might go back to jail at this point,
Dang.
they're gonna come back with another season of Serial
Yeah.
to explain what's going on. That is a messed up situation. At this point, I sit there like I remember the podcast. I caught the documentary stuff and all that, as they tracked Rabia, as she explained what was going on. I followed, the legal news on it as the lawyer background, trying to figure out what was going on. I sat there with my head in my hands and going, I don't know.
Wow.
I literally don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, Rabia, all power to you. I hope you get what you're trying for. I don't even know at this point who did what. I gave up. If he got when he was released, I went, justice system did its job. Cool. I'm all good with it. And now now he might go back and I'm like, I don't even know what to think anymore.
Wow.
I really don't know who did this, who killed this poor girl back in 1998, 1999. But at this point, I'm not convinced it was him. I'm not convinced it wasn't. I don't have a darn clue.
You just don't know. All right. Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that 20-something years of, people's lives have been thrown into turmoil over this. And her family is still dealing with, obviously, the trauma, from that. So, and it's close. It's out here. It's, I'm in Virginia. It's out in Maryland. So it's somewhat nearby. The mixed demographics are very common out here. The victim was Korean American. He came from Middle Eastern background. It's very common to see that out here and to see a lot of the intermixing in terms of kids, the teenagers dating. So that whole thing is unfortunate.
Wow. The origins of S.H.I.E.L.D. back in the 60s in the comic really do reflect the time. And I think the optimism of maybe ultimately with the United Nations, we can get, if not, and maybe never the dream of Star Trek of a one world government, but enough cooperation that we would have, this kind of unified international intelligence agency kind of watching the skies and watching the planet and stuff. With the tribalism of today, fiction, that's science fiction in itself, isn't it?
Well, yeah. And when you think of also that, you're talking about that context in the 60s of, what the politics was like, and you have Hydra growing from within, that fed into that same, fear of, the hidden communist threat of everything they were dealing with at the time, looking back at, coming out of the 50s with McCarthyism and all that stuff, and who's actually, an American, who's secretly a communist trying to undermine us from within. It all plays into the time frame. That goes with a lot of comics. If you go back, what was it? Anybody who ever has been to the International Spy Museum, out in DC, my boss Mark Zaid does a whole presentation on the role of national security and everything in comics. You think about Captain America, all of those. There was all a political context to it that was premised a lot on the time in which they came out, and it follows through. You can see in current days how that would have come out in those comics and how it applies to what we're dealing with now. You got crazy tribalism. You got people worried. You have people talking about a deep state and everything within the bureaucracy that works to undermine, any particular incumbent president. You can always find a way to find the modern version of it. But yeah, to go to what you were saying in the 60s, you can absolutely see where the concept of something like Hydra would have come in there.
Yeah. And again, I was, Smersh and Spectre and Chaos on Get Smart, all those
Uncle,
what was Uncle's evil Thrush?
Thrush.
Yes. Mike Jones, good comments.
I was gonna say,
always felt Quaid should have had a spinoff with Kyle MacLachlan, scene stealing as her dad instead of Bobby Morse. Mike loved Bobby Morse, but she worked better as a regular guest star in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've had the pleasure of meeting Adrienne Palicki, or as I always call her, Eric's sister.
There you go.
And it's, again, because of the comic book thing. And obviously Adrian's a comic book writer herself. But she's such a nice lady. And really, we got to hang a little bit last year at Terrificon. She's terrific. So I'm
that Eric's sister thing. That's my proudest achievement, is getting, because Eric and Adrian's mom actually told Eric to tell me that she loves that, because of course she's the mom of both of us. She said, of course everyone knows the famous actress, and not everybody knows the famous comic book guy, Eric, so I feel like we're balancing the scales for Eric a little, that she's Eric's sister.
Yeah, well, his star's rising, at least in the nerd culture. He'll get there. And
But
no, it's
there's going to be a
adorable.
giant fight between me and Brad now because I'm sure he agrees with Mike that Quake should get her own show, and I think Eric's
But
sister.
I think that
They-
ship may have sailed on that idea at this point.
Yeah, no, of course. I think Shield is over, right? So
Yeah.
I wouldn't give up hope though, Brad. I bet she shows up in the Secret Wars movie. So the whole conceit, as I understand it, of the Deadpool 3 is having an excuse to have Deadpool and Wolverine in Secret Wars.
Okay.
Like the end of that movie is going to be those two guys in the MCU. So I think that leaves you an open door for everybody, right? So I think everybody is.
All I'm looking for in Deadpool 3, I'm looking for a way that he ties in Mint Mobile into that. If he finds a way to do some kind of breaking the fourth wall, talk about Mint Mobile, then I'll be happy with Deadpool 3.
I'll unfortunately throw a bit of shade on that idea, and not Mint Mobile, but the possibility of tying into old Marvel television, because it seems like since Kevin Feige has stepped in and even upped his profile, not just with the movies, but with the comics and television, it seems like that era of Marvel television, not only what we got with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but all the stuff that was on Hulu as well. I think all that stuff is going to be its own thing. And maybe there is some sort of writers guild. Well, if you use a character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., then those writers and producers deserve, a bit of.
That's probably true.
Yeah, it's the Nick Locarno.
Right, the Tom Paris thing. Yeah.
Yeah, on Voyager and everything. Yeah. I know we're speaking Latin to Brad right now.
We're speaking Klingon.
It's okay. I'm sitting there going, totally, absolutely know what you're talking about.
There's a famous thing in Star Trek where there's a character in a guest star role.
Okay.
And they like him so much, they're like, wow, we need to make that guy in a regular thing, and we need this kind of character. And they're like, well, why don't we just hire the original guy and change his name, and then we don't have to pay
the original
the rights of it. So
the original writer that wrote the script for the guest star appearance. And everyone's like, come on, man, Tom Paris is Nick Locarno. And it's like, yeah, but if he was Nick Locarno, we'd owe this guy
tons of
money every episode for 7 years. And it's like, yeah, that's not going to, TV. What are you going to do?
Hey, in the end, it's a business. They want to make money and they want to spend as little as humanly possible.
Absolutely.
To that.
That's what's going on with the strike.
Greatest hits as far as either character or little subplots for you guys for S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I loved every single thing that Clark Gregg did. Yeah. I think that guy in the book, I say that probably every fifth article, it's like he's doing a masterclass of acting and no one is noticing. Like if I was in charge of the Emmys, he would have just won 7 years in a row.
I agree with you.
Because he was selling the craziest bullshit with a straight face and made you believe it. That's a giant skill that I just think people did not appreciate at the level he was doing it.
He's another one. And Brett, I want to hear, but as we talk about Clark Gregg for a second, every role he's ever had, I mean, the Mamet movie, State and Maine, and then his guest appearances over the years on The West Wing. And he's so just everyman, but just has that intangible something that you can't keep your eyes off him. And he's adorable. No, he's great.
Yeah, and he does typify. He exemplifies what you think of as just a simple G-man. Goes to work, has the basic suits, does the job, comes home, maybe opens a beer. I mean, that's about what he looks like, and that's why he was great as Coulson, because he was. I mean, and I could go on forever about West Wing, but he was perfect as the FBI agent in
Agent Casper. Absolutely,
he was awesome in that.
I think that's Agent Coulson.
Yeah.
In Undercover.
Yes, absolutely.
Earlier in his career.
August says too, and I had forgotten this. Clark's on the last few episodes of Sports Night, which explains the whole.
It's all Aaron Sorkin stuff. Yeah,
man.
But was it where I remember? I'm thinking back to the various seasons of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the various subplots.
Yeah,
what I remember actually thinking, I wish they had gone further was, and Larry, remind me of which season this was because I'm getting too damn old here. When Quake leaves the team basically for a little bit. I remember they ended a season if she leaves and she's helping some kid out in the streets and then she takes it and flies off after using the abilities. And I'm like, can we have her just be by herself for like 6 episodes? Not just have the show be about her, but have her just explore something and not be, a team member, not be someone who's confined to whatever Coulson's got her doing. I thought that would have been a great subplot for her, just to see her explore, because she went from like this rebel, computer hacker,
Yeah.
and suddenly she's like the uber bureaucratic agent who does everything by the rules. I'm like, okay, you're losing me a little bit here. No way she would have just flipped that script so easily. She's got to have I'm going back to my rebel side a little bit. That's just natural humanity here. I thought that would have been a great subplot.
I know you're gonna kill me for this, but I thought she was the weakest character because of that. They kind of didn't know what to do with her, so they just powered her up and then fast tracked her superpowers, and
I thought that's where that like a subplot like that would have helped, because it would
agreed.
It would have expanded her character more beyond just becoming what she did, where I was like, okay, great. Aside from being attractive and having she steals scenes, I was like, you didn't give her character enough for me to care what she was doing. You gotta do more with that. So I don't know, maybe they ran out of ideas, who knows.
I actually have a theory about this that's kind of unkind, because back when I was younger and was saying crazy crap to get eyeballs, I would call them, I would call them the other Whedons, and that's, I kind of want to apologize for that, because I was showing off for that. But I do think that their being married influenced stories.
We're talking about Jed Whedon and
what's her name, Marissa? His wife.
God, yeah, shame on us, man.
But they're married. It's been a while, though. I don't really feel bad. I don't remember.
And it's alliterative. It's like Maria, and then her last name starts with an M as well. Someone in the chat's going to know. Somebody save us, please.
But some episodes kind of felt like, wow, they had a rough time at marriage counseling that day, and they worked it out on TV, and that was more. It was unkind of me to blame them, because it's just a function of the soap opera stuff that they were doing. And I just don't like soap operas.
Oh, and that to kind of like loop it back to what we were discussing earlier. That's the problem with doing a 22 or 26 episode season. You have those episodes where you sit there, you watch it, and go, "The heck was the point of that?" It was a filler episode. It had no purpose other than we had to fill something for a week, so we threw this garbage in there. I was like, okay, I get it, but it didn't advance any plot line for me. It didn't do anything for the story.
One of my wish list things, John, is I want to see that pilot they shot with Adrian Palicki and all the people that were in it. Yes. Hunter, the guy who played Hunter, has an actually cooler name in real life. Nick
for their sideshow or whatever it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yes. I was ticked off. I loved those two characters. I was like, why did we not get that side, project?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Boy, they got the best thing. Paul Z, the writer, added the spies goodbye to the whole spy lexicon thing. That episode was great. Like, Mac wouldn't drink the whole shot because he's going to see him again.
Yeah, I was not happy with how that got killed off. And Lord knows I'm not a Hollywood person. I don't understand what goes into assessing the metrics of whether or not this pilot's going to work and if it's going to be greenlit. But watching those two characters, and I'm like, how you can't make a show like that work for a side project? You don't have to do 22 episodes. Maybe you do it as just a half season thing. Like how it's like looking at when Veronica Mars, totally different show, obviously different concept. Like when the Veronica Mars stuff ended, and my wife was all angry. They weren't bringing it back, and they showed like previews. I think one of the cons of what the next season would have been, what they had, what they had actually filmed as like a proposal to do a whole new season. Is she going to the FBI or something? And I'm watching it going, this would have been great. Why wasn't this greenlit? And it's like, Lord only knows. Someone said it's not going to make the money we need.
Right. I mean, the problem was, again, S.H.I.E.L.D's audience number, the ratings were going down. Why would we spin off something if, the root show isn't, growing or whatever, or sustaining its audience? I almost wonder if, like Lillehammer on Netflix, S.H.I.E.L.D. hung around as long as it did to hang more, spin-offs and other things. And I realized with Netflix, there weren't direct spin-offs of Lillehammer, but Lillehammer had to survive for several seasons to get to House of Cards and Orange is the New Black and all the
Mhm.
other Netflix. And truly, again, sorry, I'm trying very hard not to delve into Star Trek territory for me and Larry. Everyone's like, oh, Discovery really saved Star Trek and we wouldn't have all these other shows. And it's like, yeah, technically, but no, I disagree. I think, again, tonally, Discovery is what it is. And they've made other shows that are very different from Discovery. But no, you're right about that. I also like that they kind of backdoor piloted Agent Carter in the episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D. they did. And I love, if there's anybody, and again, luckily she started in the movies, but I am so for when again, maybe 5 or 7 years from now, when they make the Fantastic Four movie, the new one that fits in the MCU, I want to see 1960s S.H.I.E.L.D. And I want the story to maybe start in the Cold War, have them go off into space, maybe the negative zone.
Now, see, you've ruined the movie already. Like a decade ahead, because
and then they come back in modern day. That's how the movie's written in my mind.
That's so genius.
I loved how they brought her back for it was the Doctor Strange sequel, which was otherwise terrible. But I loved that one scene with the with Fantastic Four guy.
Yeah, Captain Carter, absolutely.
Yeah, her coming
and
back
what if?
As Captain whatever Britain or whatever she was supposed to be.
I think they called her Captain Carter, but essentially she was Captain Britain. And no, not only in that, but the What If cartoon as well.
Oh yeah, I was like, that was perfect because she was awesome, and she never got to do anything really beyond she was the love interest in the first Captain America. I'm like, there was so much more to explore with that. The Agent Carter show getting canceled too quickly, it was just unfortunate.
That was a crime.
But at least we got 2 seasons out of it. So
that. I mean, I think they missed a bet, not just continuing that, but given the fact that maybe they wanted to cancel it for some reason, it's still not going and doing another 8-episode thing at the winter break, because that was crazy for keeping attention on the Marvel universe when nothing's going on during the holidays anyway. They have, like, I was like, put Moon Knight there, put Omega of the Unknown, put Alpha Flight, right? And then, like, just keep it going. Like, why don't you do that? But I don't know. I don't understand that part of the show.
Brad, beyond Marvel, have you ever gotten into DC's, spy intelligence equivalents? King Faraday and God, I'll tell you, two of my good friends, Paul Kupperberg with the Checkmate series of the 80s, but also what Greg Rucka did with, I think, the DC spy stories in the early 2000s and stuff. I think those were 2 guys that really gave a shit and tried to build out DC's spy stuff, in those efforts.
I looked back when we started talking about doing this. I was like, what do I still have from my old comics from God knows how long ago? And I started looking through it. I go, you know what? It's ironic because despite how much now I'm all Marvel, I was like, I look back, everything I had as a kid, it was all DC. And it wasn't spy stuff. It was all, it was simple Batman, investigator, law enforcement. It was all Batman. And it was like the old school stuff. Like, that's all I was reading. Cool. I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, I don't think I ever read anything Marvel in the comics until years later when Marvel got really hip and cool because you had Iron Man and everything. I was like, yeah, everything I had, that was all DC Comics.
Understood. Larry, any love for the DC spots?
I read everything. I did Charlton Hot Rod comics. I did, Little Lulu. If it was a comic, I would read it.
Wait a minute. Even Sad Sack?
Well, Sad Sack was a strip, as far as I knew.
Did they collect them? It was a comic as well.
I never saw the comics.
Okay.
But I mean, I just like reading comics. I love the words and the pictures juxtaposed. I thought it was a cool thing. And so, I would read anything. So I have Archie and Jughead opinions.
Hey, even Tom DeFalco in either the 90s or the early aughts even had a great miniseries, Archie, the Man from Riverdale. And Riverdale had periods like S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, CW, whoever got a hold of it and turned it into something very different.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, but I really appreciate how insane it got.
Oh, God.
Did you watch it? Really?
I did. I thought it was fun. I really thought it was fun. And man, I gave it up to John Goldstein, and forgive me if it isn't John Goldstein, but the grandson of the founder of Archie and everything, or MJ, whatever it was back in the MJP in the 40s. But here I agree with Mike. Mike says Agent Carter in a different era per season, 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
However young, also
yeah.
exactly, however young or have young Janet Van Dyne cameo, absolutely, and Hank Pym.
Yes.
And that's what I was thinking when we saw flashbacks of Hank Pym with Agent Carter. And it's like, oh man, we got to explore the Cold War and détente eras of international intelligence. And yeah, there are Marvel stories to mine from those eras. Good Lord, yes, I'm all for it.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to see 3D Man, right? Avengers
I
1959 or something.
Hold on. Inform the ignorant one here. What was that?
There was an old comic called Marvel Premiere, and when they have a
Yeah.
good idea, they would just test it, and if it went off, they'd do something with it. I think that's where Dominic Fortune came from.
Yes.
But they did one called 3D Man, and it was just like a kid who put 3D glasses on, and half was blue and half was red. I don't really remember anything about it other than it was cool.
It was set in the 50s. It was made in the 70s, but set in the 50s. And yeah, like Larry said, you put the glasses on, and he had the strength, agility, and speed of 3 men. And it's like, okay, I don't know what that means. I mean, I do from a strength standpoint. I don't know what the speed thing means, but sure, why not?
He's in 3 dimensions.
As Mike said, yes, here's another great example, Agents of Atlas, where in the 50s, Brad, they created a wonderful secret agent character. It was Al Feldstein from the old EC Comics and Mad Magazine working for Marvel, but it was this character, Jimmy Woo. And Jimmy Woo was like, he fought, forgive me, everybody. He doesn't have the greatest name now, the Yellow Claw. And obviously that doesn't bode well. A Fu Manchu sort of mastermind evil guy. But Jimmy Woo was the secret agent that was fighting the Yellow Claw. And great idea. And it was great in the 2000s. Oh, God damn it. And shame on me. He's a friend too, who brought him back for Agents of Atlas.
Jeff Parker.
My buddy Jeff Parker. Jeff's like, hey, F you, John.
You didn't have that thought because I read your mind.
Yeah, Jeff, because they had in the again in the 70s in the What If comic book, they created a 1950s Avengers, and Jimmy Woo was the leader of that team, and they took various heroes and monster characters from the 50s Marvel comics and created this team. And Jeff brought him modern day, and they're the Agents of Atlas, and it's a great idea. Good Lord, I love it. Yeah, can't help it, guys. This is what I do. Tangents are welcome on Woodboard. There's nothing to do with.
I just feel like I have to thank Brad for being a good sport, just in general, because he's got a real job.
Exactly. So I dick around in the.
You and me will be talking about Agents of Atlas.
We put that in quotes sometimes.
Well, sure, but you know what I mean, and it's not to really even. I'm only being self-deprecating. I think what John and I do is amazing, and real jobs. It's just we don't have to wear pants.
I got downsized and broadcasting at the Nova, and have not looked back.
Let me tell you, the greatness of all TV stuff going to remote, and we can do it like this, is that I don't have to wear full suits anymore when I go on TV. I still wear pants, but it's not a suit pant. It's like I'm wearing sweats or something.
Dude, as my pal, I want you to know that, like in a living room in San Francisco somewhere, I'm not going to name names, but there is a guy, this teenage kid, who watched the news with you on it and just like yell at you and encourage you as you're talking. Tell the people who are asking you questions to shut up because you're Brad Moss is not talking. So that's a real job, man.
And forgive me if this is I don't want to get in your business if it's not this case, but I do know that there are certain experts that obviously do have a relationship with a certain network or whatever. Do you have like a relationship with an MSNBC, a CNN, or somebody?
No. So what you're referring to is called a paid contributor.
Yes.
Basically, you get a contract. You're exclusive to their network and their affiliates. You only, appear on their programs and you get paid. I am not one at the moment. I remain freelance. I remain free to anybody, but I'm also not paid. So, I always prefer doing it remote because I can jump between, say, putting away some laundry 5 minutes and then quick throw on, the half suit, do a hit, and then come back off and go back to whatever I was doing. The one problem with being, not downtown anymore and having to get into a studio is it takes a lot of time. So if you're being paid, it's not as big of a deal. Maybe you'll have multiple segments and so you're downtown for a while. If you're like me, where they're calling you in saying, hey, can you be on the 10 o'clock for this 5-6 minute segment? That's nothing if I'm here at, my little home office studio. It's a whole much more, bigger deal when I'm going downtown. I'll do it for certain ones. I was just downtown last week a couple times for CNN, and there's certain, times where I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I don't have anything that's, in my schedule that's blocking it. My wife will watch the kids. I'm good. But yeah, so there are, you'll see me, like, for instance, on Lawrence O'Donnell and people like Andrew Weissman, who is very smart, very experienced former federal prosecutor. He's as far as I understand, at least, he is a paid contributor for
contributor, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You finished, Brad. I didn't mean to step on you. Please finish.
No. Yeah, I mean, you see that on CNN. You'll see the people who you see all the time, and they'll either be identified as like CNN legal analyst or CNN contributor.
Well, and like you, I was telling you guys off the air, my friend Cameron McWhorter for the Wall Street Journal, based in Atlanta, was all over the place last week with Fani Willis's indictment, and was in the room when Willis was reading the indictment. And that night and then the next day, he was all over MSNBC as just an expert, a non-paid contributor and everything. It just, Englishman in San Diego, that's our buddy Len, who spends half his time on the West Coast, but most of the time in London. He says, morning, gentlemen. I've missed this live. I certainly will be watching this back. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ran with some truly ambitious concepts and character development, especially in seasons 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So he's telling me I should watch season 5 as well.
I loved season 4, and I wish that they had continued with their presentation. Like, they split the season into 3 what they called storytelling pods.
Yes.
So there was a Ghost Rider thing, there was an LMD thing, and the Matrix thing. That was season 4. And that was just really satisfying to me as an audience member, because it's the opposite of that discovery problem you brought up, John. That if you have a season-long story and you don't care about that story, you have an excuse not to watch that season.
Right.
You might come in the next, but you don't care about what's going on there. And so I'm not a big horror guy, although I loved what they did with Ghost Rider after it came out, but I wasn't looking forward to it, I was like, what? You put the motorcycle guy in a car? Like, huh? But it ended up great. And so then I was all in on the LMDs and the Matrix. And I was like, man, do that in season. Do that for the rest of the time. Just give us like little things that show that you're working, instead of like, let's put everybody in space for a minute.
And props to I don't know what the actor's name is. I remember he was in one of the other Terminator movies, but the guy who played Ghost Rider in that season was just
Gabriel Luna.
Really good.
Awesome. I never was a big fan of the Nick Cage version of Ghost Rider. It was Nick Cage being Nick Cage.
Right.
But he came in for S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought he filled that role perfect.
I completely agree. No, I liked his story arc. And it reminds me, Brad, of another show from the 80s. And I don't know if you were a fan of it back in the day, Wise Guy, which was essentially Donnie Brasco as a Donnie Brasco, yeah. And they too, as Larry described, wouldn't spend the first season. Might have all been poor Ray Sharkey, who passed away young, and his storyline. But then they would have these 2 or 3 arcs of different cases that the lead, Ken Wall, as Vinny Terranova, would infiltrate these various crime organizations on behalf of American intelligence and stuff. And that's where Jonathan Banks was before he was.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Call Saul. Yeah.
I forgot that.
So no, it's it's one, again, being an old fart. It was one of my favorite 80s shows. And God, I was so excited. Our buddy Rob Burnett and a couple of the Trexperts, Mark Altman and others, had a great episode where they talked to Ken Wall about Wise Guy, the star. And I started following him on Twitter, and he followed me back. And I sent him a private message. And I said, I can't thank you. Mark Guggenheim, also a massive Wise Guy fan. And I'm just like, dude, I loved your show. I'm so glad you did it. It only lasted three and a quarter seasons. But he was so great in it. And he responded, and he's like, oh, I really appreciate it. Thanks, man. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Ken Wall. Ken Wall on Twitter. Yay.
That's how I feel when Brad Moss writes me messages. Like, seriously though, for real, I love Mark Hamill now forever, even more than I did, because he proved to me last week, couple days ago, that he is exactly like me.
Yeah.
In that he sent Brad a thing. Oh, if I'm
that's
following the
great.
news, I gotta follow Brad and Andrew Weissman
Neil
and
Katyal,
and
Joyce
Lawrence
Vance, people
O'Donnell.
like that. Oh,
Yeah, he just. I was like, those are all the people I love. Hey, Mark, we're gonna be pals, aren't we?
For me, so when he
So
posted
anyway,
that, I had to hold my breath for a moment. I'm like, all right, thinking of a Big Bang Theory moment where he shows up and Walwitz is like, oh, it's Mark Hamill. I'm like, oh my god, he just tagged me on Twitter. Okay, I'm gonna go die now. I think that was
cool.
the high point of life, other than my kids being born.
It's such.
I'm
glad that those guys know what it means to their fans, right? That's all. Like, he's the coolest guy.
Svengoolie, the TV horror host. I mean, Brad, you might have grown up obviously remembering Svengoolie back in the 80s.
Which one was
also he was Rich Coe's the Coe's Zone on weekday afternoons. Wonderful local television host. Did a monster movie show, still does now on MeTV.
Okay.
And he had the same thing where Mark Hamill emailed him and he's like, come on, is this really Mark Hamill? And he goes, here's my number, call me. Yeah. And he called him and he's like, oh my God, it really is Mark Hamill.
Holy crap, it's really Mark Hamill.
And I know that is the great thing about Mark Hamill. As big of a star as he is, and of course, like God in the nerd culture, he is so one of us. And I've heard him say, I miss San Diego when it was just a big flea market and you could look for bargains and stuff. And it's like, oh, a man after my own heart. That is so great. So yeah. Too much. Man.
I think the best thing I ever got out of Mark Hamill, besides that post, obviously, was a few years back. I think it was during COVID. We were all stuck doing nothing for like months on end. I had Empire Strikes Back on, and he's at Dagobah, and he's starting to eat something. And I'm like, you know what? I've always been wondering this. So I take a photo of my TV, and I go, Mark Hamill, what in God's name did they have you eating? He goes. He quote tweeted me back. He's like, swear to God, it was a breadstick, and I think there were Tic Tacs in that. I'm like,
ew.
Yeah, I just ruined that. I ruined the movie magic by asking.
Ew. Oh no, I think that's cool. I want to try that breadsticks and Tic Tac.
I was gonna say, unless the Tic Tacs were embedded.
This is screen accurate,
Wow, Jesus, that's hilarious. Larry, hold the book up again because
okay.
Want to let everyone know that if you
have as seen on MSNBC
and Word Balloon, indeed, and Word Balloon. There we go. H.C.L. Larry Young.
You know what's cool? Can I do this real quick?
Sure.
Nobody sees the back cover.
Oh, jeez.
But that's my level 3 ID and my level 7 ID.
Nice.
Believe it or not, those are both Larry.
It's both me.
Wow.
Cool. You know what's cool is that's from I did the level 3 from Captain Marvel. Right.
Oh, that's great.
There's a great scene where Samuel L. Jackson puts up his ID. And my friend Tiffany, who makes IDs, I emailed her instantly. I was like, well, they did a shot in Captain Marvel just for you and me. And she's like, send me a picture of you from 1989. So I actually sent her a scan of my Massachusetts license.
Well,
she's like, no, there you go.
Larry, you got these great connections on the Sirius Star Trek. And is it Sirius or Seriously Star Trek?
You know what it is? It's that David Bowie line, Sirius Moonlight.
Oh, the Sirius Moonlight.
Sure. When we were in college, we used to say Sirius Moon Night, and so Sirius something became like it's the opposite of Sirius.
Well, every Tuesday at 6 Eastern.
Yeah.
Larry and Dan Shaheen, excuse me. I'm so sorry, Dan Shaheen, John Price. They all get together. And they talk Star Trek, or they talk about sci-fi stuff in general, and it's a great show. I tried not to miss
so much, John.
When I don't see it live, I absolutely catch the reruns, as many might do on for Word Balloon and stuff. No, it's a fun show. I appreciate your guys' points of view, and yeah, man, this is a great book that's available, and people should, if you love S.H.I.E.L.D., this is a wonderful meditation of this collection of essays. As Larry was just kind of. Larry's like the traveler, kind of watching S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything.
Join me. Sit here. I should tell people it's available at dorkcourt.com/store, or you can also get my kids' first book, The Untitled Walker Young Project.
Outstanding.
That's still the name of it, or is that going to be?
That's the name of it.
Okay.
Because he was raised in a media family, one of the
Yeah.
lessons that he learned is that, like Newman's Own or Kai's Power Tools, everything famous is somebody's something.
Yes.
So his spin is that he just wanted to have his name in there and make people say his name every time they talked about it.
That's awesome.
So,
I always tease Larry
that's me.
because I remember pictures of Walker before he had puberty, and he was just this great, this great little nerdy kid. And now, as I said, he got hit with the super soldier formula.
Oh man!
And now Larry's raising Captain America. It's scary, man.
It's crazy.
Like, Jesus, man. Big football kid, big sports kid. But still a nerd, and I love that.
You better watch. We heard the stories with Agent Carter when when he comes out of the machine and she's like trying not to touch the chest. She's like, "No, that was real. That was the holy crap."
I love that story. Like, actors are people too, right?
Yes.
100%.
Chris Evans, a handsome man.
No, Haley Atwell.
Haley
Atwell. They had such great chemistry, and I really, again, we all love a happy ending. But that was so lovely at the end of Endgame that it's like, oh, he got back to Agent Carter, and they're dancing, and to Tommy Dorsey. Isn't that beautiful? So,
I don't see how you end that movie any other way.
The one thing that came to mind,
they teased it for like 15 movies.
Oh yeah, the one thing that came to mind that I remember sitting there thinking, going, hold on, what just changed was, remember, she had originally gotten married, had kids, because you met the granddaughter. I'm like, if he went back, is it him she married, or did he just just get in the way of somebody else marrying her? Is that actually his granddaughter that he was kissing in whichever movie it was?
Oh, no, she Sharon is his
niece.
It's a niece, but it's still but it's still the Beverly Hillbillies when you think about it. No disrespect to it.
I forget. It might be in the movies. It might be grandniece at that point, right?
Okay, but no, I hear what you're saying, Brett. That's funny. I never put that together. But what I wanted to see, and maybe it's still possible, I really hope with the multiverse, there's a reason to bring Chris Evans back or Downey. And if not them, cast other actors that could be a different alternate versions of Iron Man and Cap. But what I really wanted after Endgame was, let's see Steve Rogers covertly still doing the right thing and being married to Peggy. But it's like, come on, man. I don't believe that guy is just going to quit. He's too much about honor and duty and stuff. So I kind of want to see 50s and 60s Captain America missions covertly,
I just love the idea that they just drum into you as an audience member, if you like science fiction and time travel stuff, that you can't stay in the past because you're going to ruin everything. And I love the whole conceit of the one guy that you can trust to go back in the past and not ruin anything. It's Cap. I just love that. He's like, I'll be cool.
A good woman. All for the love of a good
woman. John Sotrays wants me to have a whole adventure. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to change the timeline.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't mind seeing him kicking around the time stream though for like 6 episodes. Like next time Chris Evans needs to pay his mortgage or something, just ask me. We can bang that out in an afternoon. That'd be easy.
Here's $30 million. Come back, Chris.
He's too busy making cameos in movies like Free Guy.
That was funny though. You got to admit.
So I thought that was hysterical. I think he's in it for 5 seconds.
And back to Twitter. I mean, the guy's been nothing but honoring Cap's legacy with his tweets about how messed up our country is, and he's on the right side of things. So he's a great guy.
Somebody made an awesome observation about that that said Chris Evans is being very patriotic, and Robert Downey Jr. is looking at technology. Even Mark Ruffalo is going green.
Yeah, yes, clean water and everything.
Yeah. Then the joke was, man, just make sure Jeremy Renner doesn't start killing people.
He's not gonna be able to do a whole lot of anything right now. He's still recovering.
Oh my God! Did you see? Speaking of documentaries, did you watch that one? Holy shit!
No, not the documentary. No,
they did a documentary about
already.
Saving Renner's life, and holy shit! I'm not a queasy guy really, but the first 20 minutes of that is like, I think I'm watching a snuff film. Like it was crazy. I don't see how the guy lived.
Yeah. No, we were all on death watch for poor Jeremy.
Anyway, God bless you, Hawkeye.
I just remember him. My first introduction to him was actually in SWAT. If you remember back when SWAT came out like 20 years ago, he was the bad guy in that. I thought he was awesome. So when they made him into the good guy all of a sudden for, as Hawkeye and everything, I was like, okay, I can get along with it. Sorry, you still have the attitude for me of the guy with like the worst attitude, like the worst mantra, and just complete evil. But you play this well as like the nice family guy.
Guys, I haven't seen Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 yet.
Okay.
I
did. when you brought up Haley Atwell, I went to find that. You said, "Oh, I heard Evans have good chemistry." I'm like, "No, it's Haley Atwell. She has good chemistry with everybody." Holy shit! Did you see Mission Impossible?
She's in Dead Reckoning. Oh my god! Yeah. That's another reason to see it now.
Did you hear?
No, I did. I kept doing all the Mission Impossibles until. The wife gets secretly killed until the Jeremy Renner one, the one where Jeremy Renner was in it. Yeah, that was the last one I watched. And I was like, all right, this has just I can't even keep going with these. This is just too much. It's like with Fast and Furious. After a while, I was like, now it's just ridiculous. I'm done. I remember how cool they were when they started. Now it's what new ridiculous thing can we do? I mean, they look cinematically amazing. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Every time I see the promos, I'm like, this looks great. But I just don't have any desire to sit through it.
Well, the problem with a lot of these action movies is they spend so much time on the big action moments and stuff that and especially with CGI, you don't have the visceral reaction. I remember people talking about the original King Kong and comparing it to the modern stuff. And even though there was that animatronic or that like basically puppet that they would stop motion and move, ironically, when they would reposition the arms and legs or the chest, there would be a ruffle of the fur. So it kind of almost looked, if not natural, organic in some way. And I've had no interest in any Kong of Skull Island or even the modern. I am curious about the new Godzilla TV show whenever it goes back into production, because a couple of good friends are writing for it. So I've got a rooting interest. So I'll watch that. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's
like with Jurassic Park, where they just kept doing new things. I'm like, at some point, I get it, they must be making good money off it to keep doing these. But for some people like me, I'm just like, you lost me. I lost the interest. I needed something fresh. This just feels like a retreat of something we've done too many times. Bring back the writers. I need another season of Severance. I don't need another. I don't need another movie about Kong or about Jurassic Park.
All right. Can I just jump in? Because I'm a giant Mission Impossible fan anyway. But to have these films, I'm very excited about it. So, Brad, you don't have to do this right now. But at some point in the next 2 years, with the strike and everything.
Yeah, when there's nothing.
Believe me. So, Ghost Protocol, whatever, 4, 5, 6, and this one, 7. It's all one story. Which is crazy cool.
Okay.
That they started the first 3 where like, let's, showcase the director. So there's a John Woo shot, number 2, but when McHugh showed up, he's like, well, I'm going to write and direct this. And Tom is going to do his stuff. And this is all just going to be one thing. And so at some point you're going to watch all of those together and you're going to be really impressed, because I think they're going to kill Tom Cruise at the end of this.
Wow.
No one kills Tom Cruise. He has to level up.
I think that's why they're going to do it.
Scientology that they do to, what the next level is you get.
When you see the films, right? As many times as I have, even my son loved them. And we watched it last summer. We watched them 3 times. Just we go 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
And once you start doing that, you're like, oh, there's a really cool subtext going on here about. Everyone thinks it's like you choose your own family and that's your team kind of thing. But it's more like this is what you do when you are scared about your mortality.
You guys keep talking. Forgive me because I've got to step away just for a second and I'll be right back.
Anyway. Are you going to tell this story about what happened to you and Chloe Bennett on Twitter?
No, I will never ever speak of it because someone will go and search for stuff to try to figure out what happened. For the record, for anyone watching this, nothing ever happened.
All right, pretend I didn't say anything.
I've never met the woman.
Well, that's true, I'm sure.
And that my wife just came in and just said, "Goddamn right, you never met."
Tell her that was me. I'm a bad influence.
Come on, honey. Hashtag Team Quake.
Oh no.
But no,
Anyway.
it was for those who are curious, it was several years ago. I think it was before COVID. I made some dumb joke on Twitter, just replying to a tweet or whatever she had done. She didn't find it funny. That was the last thing we ever said. In that she said some comment back. I went, okay, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna go away, and that was the end of it. But it was one of those things I've never, try to actually talk to someone in a stupid way, especially if you're a man, because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it was so harmless. It's more funny to your friends because you said something that she didn't get, and you went, all right, and then, but we all lost it.
Well, yes. So to give context, so anybody who's wondering how on earth Larry and I could possibly know each other, coming different parts of the country, completely different areas, we were part of a Facebook group about basically mostly men. There were some women there. It was mostly men, all of us who were basically overgrown 12-year-olds. With the maturity of an overgrown 12-year-old, talking like that. And I think the women half the time just tolerated us like you guys are idiots. Yeah. But so we met in that group, and we all would just talk all kinds of stupid garbage at each other and throw politics at each other. But so when this thing, there was a thread in that group at one point about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Chloe Bennett and all the guys being typical guys about it. And so when this happened on Twitter, everybody just I think it was Larry who caught it and posted it in the group. It was like Brad. It was either Larry or one of my other friends.
Yeah, it was me.
Got slammed.
I would never do anything like that. And especially, you guys don't know this. I'm not on Twitter at all. I've never been on Twitter.
Oh,
You're better for it. You're better for it.
I was like, I tried it. I went on it in 2003. I know because that's the only thing.
Oh my god!
And I went, oh wow, this is the kind of thing where I would. It's not for me. You would never. Would be bad for me because I would just never go to sleep and arguing with everybody about stuff that doesn't matter.
Oh, and so, it's like that old cartoon of honey, are you coming to bed? And the guy goes, no, someone's wrong on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah,
oh, God.
I knew it.
I've told many a comic creator, you are never going to win a social media argument with Vader 28. And that's,
right.
I mean, they hide behind names. They have to have the last word, no matter what. And it's like you gotta. And I mean, I sometimes don't take my own advice, and even recently did it. And it's like, take your own advice, man. Just walk away.
Oh, that was. That was especially for me during because I used to do a lot of Fox News stuff during the Trump years.
Wow, yeah.
I was a regular there for a while, doing basically providing a counterpoint to a lot of what people in the audience would have heard.
Yeah.
So when you had Mueller and you had all that stuff, so I would get endless trolls in my feed. And I remember there was some point where my wife said, "Why are you trying to discuss or debate the finer nuances of national security law with?" I felt like writing this name 001. I was like, I don't know, because it's my need to be right. I can't.
Yeah. We all have it, man. No, come on. And we're expecting a normal discourse, and instead it's like, no, I'm not done with you. And it's like, all right.
Yeah, that's the part I always have a challenge with. It's like I love a spirited debate, and I'll throw down. As long as everybody understands what's happening. Well, once you start getting into that nonsense,
I'm with you.
Have the last word.
There's no winning. There's no winning the argument.
Yeah.
Mario says, "Dark Reckoning, Deep Reckoning. What is it?"
Yeah, Dead
Reckoning. Thank you. Again, was just okay. He says the ad campaign ruined it for me. Before the movie ever came out, all they touted was the stunt. Yeah.
Okay. I don't see how you ruined that movie. Well, you could perform that entire movie in front of me, and I'd be like, all right, well, I know what happens.
I've blown off 4, 5, and 6 just because I didn't have time. The last one I saw in the theaters was 3, and I really thought JJ did a great job on 3 and righted the ship after. And I love John Woo, but the weirdness of 2 is just where the motorcycles are fighting each other. I'm like, all right, you're getting silly.
And the problem was number 1 was so good.
Yeah,
you guys. You're gonna love this movie.
I'm gonna watch 4, 5, and 6 basically.
This one, you know who the bad guy is? Kittredge from the first one.
Oh, that's cool.
So what McQuarrie is doing is like making those first 3 that aren't really part of the 4, 5, 6, 7 story. They're making it part of the world anyway.
Oh,
That's
geez.
So
great.
he's like bringing guys in, and who's the girl that played Felicity? You know,
Oh yeah.
she's in the third movie.
She's
Like
Gary Russell.
yeah.
Mary Russell. She's in JJ's third movie,
Right.
and
Right.
so there's a like folder with her picture on it. It says
Oh, that's
deceased.
great.
Stuff like
Yeah,
that. So
I was ticked how quick they killed her off.
100%. I'm so with you, Brad.
I'm like,
Absolutely,
wait,
man.
what?
But
You can't.
That and in the first movie, turning Jim Phelps into a bad guy, and it's like,
yeah,
fuck
that
off,
one's
man.
not good.
You know, in the early aughts, I went to several conventions, and one convention, Peter Graves was there.
Oh.
And it was great because they put all the comic book people with the celebrities, so you saw them all the time for like 3 days. And by Sunday, I'm like, "How you doing, Mr. Graves? Good to see you." "Hi, John. Nice to see you." And I'm like, "That is so awesome. Peter Graves knows who I am. I love this."
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Now
And
you
I
made me
also-
mad about that John Voight thing.
yeah, no shit. I'm sure he was. You know, also Phil Morris, the son of Greg Morris, who of course Jackie Child's on Seinfeld, among Martian Manhunter on Smallville, a million great roles.
Oh god, yeah.
I met him at New York Comic Con, and I'm like, dude, I'm such a fan of not only you, but I loved your father when he played Barney on the original Mission Impossible. And I said, you know, it's funny because of shows like Alias and the new Mission Impossible movies, everything moves so fast in this. You know, we're all wired because of MTV and videos to pay attention. You watch the original Mission Impossible, and that show is not on a stopwatch; it's on an hourglass. And Barney is hunched over, cracking a safe for like 20 minutes of the episode. He's still trying to crack the safe, and it's just like, Jesus, man! It was such slower. I mean, that's the one thing I think on the original.
What? Well, go back. You know, you think about what all the Bond movies are like now. Go back and watch those original ones with Connery. He's sitting there leisurely playing a game of golf, and it's like, you can't do that now. You gotta jump through a window and roll off the scaffolding 3 times first.
No, you're right. You're right. But I mean, I grew up on those movies, so I still adore him.
Phil Morris, though, his finest role is playing Barney's son on the Mission Impossible reshoot during the screen.
Yeah, it was the actors' strike.
What was it, 88?
Yeah, in the mid-80s. Yeah, the 80s.
You know about this, Brad? They just, during the writer's strike, they had to put something up, so they just reshot Mission Impossible and changed all the leads' names. But because nobody was familiar with it, really, they just reshot it. It was great.
And it was still Peter Graves, which
the
was
best thing about it is one of the actors was the only one who ever got disavowed until the movies, where Tom Cruise gets disavowed every 5 seconds. But that was always really cool. And then that actress became a real estate agent in Carlsbad Caverns or something.
I did meet Peter Lupus in the early 80s.
Oh, cool.
It was a thrill.
Yeah.
So he was the one character other than Peter Graves that made it
all of them. Yeah,
made it through the entire run of the original series. Absolutely. Good stuff, man.
Boys,
you're killing me in the best way. This is fantastic. I loved it. So, Larry, you're just selling Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. through the Door Court website, or is
it
on Amazon?
It's just a short run. Honestly, I thought somebody might have something to say about it because I use the name of the show and some of the marks, and so I'm like, all right, I'll do a short run of 100 for myself to sell at San Diego, and if they tell me to stop, I'll just stop. And it was the opposite. Everybody seemed to love it. So
is it available?
Fair use, I guess.
Is it available digitally as well as a physical copy?
I mean, it isn't just because I don't know what that is. if you need it as a PDF,
as an ebook.
Yeah, I mean, like, can you get it on Amazon, whatever books or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not. It's just you got to get it from me.
So dorkcourt.com for listening and watching.
/store.
And then you probably display it in your office, like the cool kids.
I'm not in your league though, Brad. That's what it is. It's like only the really cool people.
Well, and something that Larry's made that is available, of course, is Astronauts in Trouble.
Yep. All the regular stuff. Yeah.
I was going to say your other AIT.
Yeah, all the AIT books. Anything that I've written, like Black Diamond, True Facts,
Proof of Concept.
Yeah, all that stuff is available. And then there's some stuff like Mike Brennan's Electric Girl is still available. I don't.
Okay.
I'm a football dad now. I don't really remember that.
Go to doorcourt.com to get the S.H.I.E.L.D. book, but then also do an Amazon search on Larry Young, and you'll find other
Thank you so
great books
much.
that he's done. Yeah,
You're,
Brad,
you're always so kind.
any writing, or are you like me? I mean, I broadcast, so I don't have to write basically.
No, so I mean, if you Google my name and for op-eds or whatever, you'll find all kinds of things I've talked about, particularly over the last let's see, what is it, 2013 now? Last about 7 years. With the rise of Donald Trump as a political official and candidate and then president, and then everything that's happened since. That was where kind of my media star sort of took off. Nobody knew who I was for the most part before Trump. I think I used to joke, I have Twitter following now of 208,000 people. But when Trump
and Mark Hamill,
yeah, and Mark Hamill. But when Trump was elected, and became president, I think I had 3,500. It's one of those things where
it's great, man.
You fill a vacuum. There's a need for a voice on those kinds of issues, and so that's where sort of my social media presence took off. So yeah, I mean, you Google my name and you Google anything along the lines of national security. You talk, Mueller report, Trump's indictment, stuff like that. You'll find any number of op-eds I've written over the years. Some collaborative with other people. Did a bunch. There's a bunch of the Trump lawyers have all been indicted now in Georgia, and they're facing potential indictments in the federal stuff in D.C. If you go back to November 2020, you'll see a great op-ed I co-authored with another lawyer, Joanne Molinaro, who ironically is no longer a practicing lawyer now. Now she is she's known as the Korean vegan. She has a whole Instagram and TikTok online content stuff she does, in which she's written books on this whole entire food side, but she still had the legal background, and so we co-authored that piece back then, and it fit into the political moment that we were all facing in 2020. So Google any of this stuff on me. You'll find plenty of dumb things I'm sure I've written over the years.
Oh, dude, tell about your Atlantic stuff. That's what I first started getting a real fan.
Yeah. So, all right. So for those who remember, and I don't care which side of the political spectrum anybody's on, but there was a lot of, hysterical and over the top concerns about the safety of the republic during the course of the Trump years, and there was a lot of serious problems going on. So there were pieces in outlets like the Atlantic and Politico who were doing what they called these series. They were doing the constitutional series, as they had various lawyers and experts commenting on what we were all facing. And so with Trump, we broke a lot of boundary lines and a whole lot of new norms that we had to figure out where the lines were. And so I wrote many op-eds during those years on where he was sort of exploiting basically the areas that we had never fleshed out as a matter of law. Everything was just what people understood. Here were the norms. Here's what you don't do.
Right.
And Donald Trump came in and said, okay, I understand.
I'm doing it.
But
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. And they were like, well, yeah, you can, but you're not supposed. He goes, if I can do it, I'm doing it. And so he just blew past it. You had his kids working in the White House. You gave them clearances when they were denied. It was one of those things of, yeah, you can, but no one else has ever done that before. And so we were addressing it, and I wrote a number of op-eds at the time explaining, here's what we're dealing with. Here's the realities of the situation, and here's what we might have to fix, going forward. And you saw some of that happen after Trump left. They, revised some statutory issues to prevent what he tried in January of 2021. But that's a lot of what I addressed over those years and continue to address in terms of what norms he broke through, what rules he broke through, and what we're going to have to fix going forward. And a lot of it, you think of it from a comic book sense, whether it's, the more idealistic, the one world government, which is certainly not something I ascribe to, but sort of a lot of those ideas of what is, calling to our better angels and what can we fix going forward. And you think back to like Captain America, Winter Soldier, where where you're dealing with, you're building these huge, floating fortresses. And what are you actually trying to pull off here? It goes to some of that same concept. Sometimes you keep trying to build something and you start pushing boundaries just because you can, and you don't actually have to. And sometimes you have to pull it back and you have to reform things to make sure you don't go too far across that line. And just like we saw it in movies, and we saw with the various Marvel universe and in the comics, you see it in real life as well.
Dude, I'm a bleeding heart liberal, and I'm not a fan of the former president at all. That said, the American society, if you want to give a metaphor, is Carl Walenda walking the biggest tightrope ever. And I don't know what the right answers are in terms of dealing with the things that Trump did, because as you say, well, there's no law keeping me from doing it. And it's like, yeah, but there are norms.
Yeah.
And, and again, he yells, well, no one's ever done this to a president before. No one's ever had to, because they've all been gracious losers when they lose. And we'll leave it at that. But no, I on the one hand, I think it's amazing that people like yourself are out there to point these things out. On the other hand, I can't imagine living with it to the degree that you are, Brad, because it's insane. And I really hope that the better heads will prevail. God only knows what's going to happen. That's all. I mean, I'm glad he is being at least the feeder to the fire. But as we all know, all it takes is one juror to go, I disagree. Or God forbid he wins, it all goes away with his Department of Justice.
Pretty much. People keep asking me, they go, there's no way he can win a trial, right? I go, juries are unpredictable. Judges with their rulings at trial are unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. I say, will he probably be convicted on at least one, if not multiple of these cases? I go, most likely. Can I guarantee it? God, no.
And then what if he is convicted? Because this has never happened before.
Yeah.
And the simple solution, as he said about Hillary, lock her up. And it's like, yeah, that's simple. But here comes insurrection part 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fucked up time. It's that.
If people keep asking me, they go, where would we put him? I go, I have no idea. We would have to build a facility just for him, because you can't stick him in a normal facility. One, because he is the former president. He's got God knows what kind of secrets in his head. But two, I'm not sticking some poor innocent Secret Service agents in there in Gen Pop with, murderers and white collar criminals. No.
That's like the most awesome idea for a show, though. Like the four guys, you call them the square pegs or something.
Yeah.
And they just walk around the yard with the big guy. Oh my God.
That would be the worst detail ever. Who would want that detail? Well, who's gonna? Were they gonna sit there, sleep in the cells, and it's like, no,
it's impossible. How do you do it?
No, sorry, everybody. It's the real world, and we apologize for having it interfere in our lovely nerd conversation.
Right.
If you disagree with our point of view, and that's fine. It's okay. It's okay to disagree. I don't have the answers. I'm sure Brad doesn't, and
I sure as hell do not have the answers.
Yeah. So, what we can answer is, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fascinating show. Worth
there you go.
And Larry's doing a good job of advocating for beyond Mission Impossible 3 for me to catch up. I appreciate that. Maybe next time we'll talk about the Bourne Identity next time we talk.
Okay.
Jeremy Renner movie, much better.
There you go. Absolutely, man.
I think I was the only one who liked that one. I thought that.
I didn't mind it.
I liked it. It was cool.
Yeah. No,
I liked it because it happened at the same time as the first one.
And it broadened the universe. It broadened the Bourne universe. So, I even liked the original miniseries that
Richard Chamberlain, right?
Yeah, Chamberlain did back in the, and it's so funny. I
don't think Brad was born yet when that was on, man.
I was born in '81, guys. All right, y'all were like picking up girls at some party.
That's when I graduated high school.
Yeah, well, like I said, you started picking up girls at the party.
Yeah, I was 17. I was 17 in '81. So no, I hear you, man. That's
great.
Jeez. Really nice to meet you, Brad. I hope you'll come back.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm glad I could come on. It's been an awesome conversation. I've learned some things. As much as I thought I was a huge dork and nerd, clearly I don't know anything.
Yeah, we're nerds. Yeah, Brad, you're awesome. Thanks, man.
Larry, we managed to talk for almost an hour and 40 minutes and not talk about Star Trek that much.
Not that much, right?
Which is I think a triumph for us.
Star Wars over Star Trek.
Oh, next Star Wars thing, you should have Brad on to talk Star Wars with him. That'll be awesome.
Perhaps when Andor comes back again 7 years from now.
Ahsoka comes out this week.
Oh, that's right. Okay, absolutely. Yeah, right. I got to be honest. I haven't been. I'll watch it, and I'll hope for the best that I enjoy it. But yeah, I'm not as deep into Star Wars as I am with Star Trek. I have to admit.
Well, I saw the Ahsoka stuff. They were talking about bringing in Grand Admiral Thrawn. I'm like, I remember the books.
There you go, man.
That was the 7, 8, and 9 movies I wanted from the Thrawn trilogy.
Absolutely.
The garbage we got.
Well, now we're getting it.
So true.
We're getting Thrawn finally. I can finally live out my, teenage, science fantasy, days.
And I'm with you on Andor, man. I mean, it's both, it's the West Wing of Star Wars in the best ways. So no, I agree with you, man. It's
West Wing, best show ever. I'll fight y'all to the end.
Oh man, oh no,
Agreed.
we'll next time we talk, Brad, we'll definitely talk West Wing
I can talk West Wing forever. Absolutely.
big fan. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching and listening. At the end of the week, if everything works out right, I'm going to talk to Mike Grell on Friday afternoon because that's when he would like to talk. So that's going to happen. He has a new version of John Sable, a new collected edition that he wants to talk about. And hopefully Brian Bendis joining me late Thursday night. And in the meantime, my good friends at Dublin Comic-Con did a bunch of great panels, and I'll be putting those into the Word Balloon feed as well. And they've had great conversations with some of our favorite nerds and great people like Will Murray, who did great Doc Savage and Shadow books. And I can't remember the author's name, but the guy, sorry, Star Trek, he did the biography of Benjamin Sisko, the Deep Space Nine captain. And he's one of the interviews, among others. So all that coming up this week on Word Balloon. Thanks a lot for watching. Until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.